Hinduism. Your days are like shadow. You will not prolong it. Half of your life you spend in sleep. Part is wasted in youthful carelessness, and another in the helplessness of old age. And the remaining balance is spent in wallowing in the trivial pleasures of domestic or sensuous life. Keep your mind calm and serene. Your own real enemy is your own rebellious mind. One may do penance, but not of conquered anger. One may have knowledge without detachment. Indeed, a man may be great, but all the same be a prey to desire. With material gains and desires, there is no satisfaction. Such is avarice. One contented with what happens to him of itself is happy. Everybody reaps the fruit of his own deeds. To one who has denuded himself of all slumber, subdued his mind, is tranquil, serene, and contented, there is happiness everywhere. Wealth, pleasure, virtue are things of little moment. Knowledge is of two kinds, that which is derived from Scripture and that which is derived from reflection. A considerate man will always cultivate, in act, thought, and speech, that which is good for living beings. All mind is woven with the sense, but in a pure mind shines the light of the self. She is a true wife who is skillful in household affairs. She is a true wife who hath borne a son. She is a true wife whose heart is devoted to her Lord. She is a true wife who knoweth none but her Lord. The wife is a man's half. The wife is the first of friends. A wise man, whether strong or weak, should ever forgive his persecutor, even when the latter is in the straits. If amongst men there were not persons equal unto the earth in forgiveness, there would be no peace amongst men. Do not humiliate and insult others. Quarrel not with friends. Abstain from companionship with those that are vile and low. The very gods desire his company, who, stung with reproach, returneth it not himself, nor causeth others to return it. Or who, being struck, doth not himself return the blow, nor causeth other to do it. And who wisheth not the slightest injury to him that injureth him. Therefore, should good manners and good conduct be maintained with care, for as regards wealth, it cometh or goeth. He that is wanting in wealth is not really wanting, but he that is wanting in manners and conduct is really in want. Anger must be conquered by forgiveness, and the wicked must be conquered by honesty. The miser must be conquered by liberality, and falsehood must be conquered by truth. All kinds of crookedness mean death, and all kinds of sincerity are called Brahma. If an opportunity, with respect to the man who waits for it, once passes away, it can never be had again by the person desirous of acting. Truth is Brahma. Truth is penance. It is truth that creates all creatures. It is by truth that the whole universe is upheld. Happiness is desirable. It is an attribute of the soul. Both virtue and profit are sought for its sake. Virtue is its root. This, indeed, is its origin. All acts have for their end the attainment of happiness. Do today what is for thy good. Way must be made for a man in a carriage, for one who is above 90 years old, for one diseased, for the carrier of a burden, for a woman, for a snataka, for the king, and for a bridegroom. Let him eagerly follow the customs which are auspicious, and the rule of good conduct. Be careful of purity, and control all his organs. Let him mutter prayers and, untired, daily offer oblations in the fire. He who, recollecting his former existences, again recites the Veda, gains endless bliss by the continual study of the Veda. Let him be always industrious in privately reciting the Veda. Let him be patient of hardships, friendly towards all, of collected mind, ever liberal, and never a receiver of gifts, and compassionate towards all living creatures. Let him not desire to die. Let him not desire to live. Let him wait for his appointed time, as a servant waits for the payment of his wages. Let him put down his foot, purified by his sight. Let him drink water purified by straining with a cloth. Let him utter speech purified by truth. Let him keep his heart pure. Let him patiently bear hard words. Let him not insult anybody. And let him not become anybody's enemy for the sake of this perishable body. Delighting in what refers to the soul, sitting in the postures prescribed by the yoga, independent of external help, entirely abstaining from sensual enjoyments, with himself for his only companion, he shall live in this world, desiring the bliss of final liberation. Neither by explaining prodigies and omens, nor by skill in astrology and palmistry, nor by giving advice, and by the exposition of the sastras. Let him ever seek to obtain alms. Let him disdain all food obtained in consequence of humble salutations. For even an ascetic who has attained final liberation is bound with the fetters of samsara by accepting food given in consequence of humble salutations. By eating little, and by standing and sitting in solitude, let him restrain his senses if they are attracted by sensual objects. By the restraint of his senses, by the destruction of love and hatred, and by the abstention from injuring the creatures, he becomes fit for immortality. On the separation from their dear ones, on their union with hated men, on their being overpowered by age and being tormented with diseases, on the infliction of pain on embodied spirits, which is caused by demerit, and the gain of eternal bliss, which is caused by the attainment of their highest aim, gained through spiritual merit. By deep meditation, let him recognize the subtle nature of the Supreme Soul and its presence in all organisms, both the highest and the lowest. Let him recognize, by the practice of meditation, the progress of the individual soul through beings of various kinds, a progress hard to understand for unregenerate men. He who possesses the true insight into the nature of the world is not fettered by his deeds, but he who is destitute of that insight is drawn into the circle of births and deaths. When by the disposition of his heart he becomes indifferent to all objects, he obtains eternal happiness both in this world and after death. Contentment, forgiveness, self-control, abstention from unrighteously appropriating anything, obedience to the rules of purification, coercion of the organs, wisdom, knowledge of the Supreme Soul, truthfulness, and abstention from anger form the tenfold law. In whatever order a man who knows the true meaning of the Veda science may dwell, he becomes, even while abiding in this world, fit for the union with Brahman. That trouble and pain which the parents undergo on their birth of their children cannot be compensated even in 100 years. Where the husband is pleased with his wife, and the wife with her husband, happiness will assuredly be lasting. He who desires happiness must strive after a perfectly contented disposition and control himself. For happiness has contentment for its root. The root of unhappiness is the contrary disposition. Let him not insult those who have redundant limbs or are deficient in limbs. nor those destitute of knowledge, nor very aged men, nor those who have no beauty or wealth, nor those who are of low birth. Everything that depends on oneself gives pleasure. A man who ever covetous displays the flag of virtue, who is a hypocrite, a deceiver of the people, intent on doing injury, and a detractor from the merits of all men, who with downcast look, of a cruel disposition, is solely intent on attaining his own ends, dishonest and falsely gentle, fall in consequence of that wicked mode of acting into the hell called Padatamasra. Single is each being born. Single it dies. Single it enjoys the reward of its virtue. Single it suffers the punishment of its sin. He who is persevering, gentle, and patient shuns the company of men of cruel conduct, and does no injury to living creatures, gains, if he constantly lives in that manner, by controlling his organs and by liberality, heavenly bliss. He who is dishonest with respect to speech is dishonest in everything. She, the housewife, must always be cheerful, clever in the management of her household affairs, careful in cleaning her utensils, and economical in expenditure. Even forgetful students of the sacred books are more distinguished than the ignorant. Those who remember them surpass the forgetful students. Those who possess a knowledge of the meaning are more distinguished than those who only remember the words. Men who follow the teaching of the texts surpass those who merely know their meaning. A man must adopt a vocation appropriate to his age, intellect, means, ability in speaking, dress, learning, family, and activity, a vocation free from crookedness and dishonesty. The wise grieve not for those who live, and they grieve not for those who die, for life and death shall pass away. A gift is pure when it is given from the heart to the right person at the right time and at the right place, and when we expect nothing in return. None who performs good deeds comes to an evil end. By faith comes the knowledge of the truth. May all beings regard me with the eye of a friend. May I regard all beings with the eye of a friend. With the eye of a friend do we regard one another. And his austerity, gifts, uprightness, nonviolence, and truthfulness, all these are the largesse of this sacrifice. being left by the living self, this body surely dies. But the living self does not die. Speak the truth. Practice righteousness. Make no mistake about study. Having offered the desirable wealth to the teacher, do not cut off the line of progeny. There should be no inadvertence about truth. There should be no deviation from righteous activity. There should be no error about protection of yourself. Do not neglect propitious activities. Do not be careless about learning and teaching. There should be no error in the duties towards the gods and men. Let your mother be a goddess unto you. Let your father be a god unto you. Let your teacher be a god unto you. Let your guest be a god unto you. The works that are not blameworthy are to be resorted to, but not the others. Just as the Brahmanas do, who may happen to be there, and who are able deliberators, who are adepts in those duties and customs, who are not directed by others, who are not cruel, who are desirous of merit. This is the injunction. This is the instruction. The offering should be with modesty. The offering should be with awe. The offering should be with sympathy. The self cannot be attained by the study of the Vedas, not by intelligence, nor by much hearing. Only by him who seeks to know the self can it be attained. To him, the self reveals its own nature. Know the self to be the master of the chariot, and the body to be the chariot. Know the intellect to be the charioteer, and the mind to be the reins.